Hi there, and welcome to The Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And today we are going to make shrimp scampi in the Ninja Foodi in less than 20 minutes, and it's going to taste absolutely delicious. I mean, restaurant quality delicious. So you definitely want to stick around for this video. So the first thing we're gonna do is make a shrimp stock. Now you could use chicken stock, you could use vegetable stock, you could even use water, although I really don't recommend that because it's not gonna add any flavor. But we already have the shrimp, we have the shells, why throw them away? Let's use them and make a shrimp stock. And it only takes 5 minutes of pressure cooking to do this, so it's super easy. Now what I have here are the shells from 12 ounces of frozen shrimp. You want to go with large or medium shrimp for this dish, and I'll tell you why. Because we are not cooking the shrimp. We're gonna let the residual heat of the pasta cook the shrimp perfectly for us. So if you get larger shrimp, you're gonna have to make some adjustments in that because they're gonna take just a little bit longer to cook. So I really recommend getting medium or large shrimp, which these are 31 to 40 shrimp per pound, and it's 12 ounces. Now I've already taken the shells off. So we've got the shrimp here in this bowl. This bowl is ice water because, you know, we want to keep it cold. So put your shrimp in the refrigerator after you peel them until you're ready to use them. You want them to stay cold. And these are the shells. So we're going to add the shells into the inner pot. And you can even do this ahead of time. So like if you eat a lot of shrimp, go ahead and save all your shells, throw them into the freezer. When you have a couple pounds of them, make this up, just double the amount of seasoning. Now, right here, I have 1 teaspoon of Old Bay. Now you don't have to use this, but I'm a Maryland girl, so we always use Old Bay when we're cooking seafood. There's also another one I think called J.O.'s, and you can find these anywhere, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so I'm gonna use 1 teaspoon. And real quick, I just wanted to talk about these measuring spoons because I absolutely love them. They are from Pampered Chef and they sit upright with your spices in there. So sometimes I can just line them up with the spices and just leave them there till I'm ready to go. And I just love them. The other thing that's really unique about this design is the way that they're shaped. They can go into those small spice bottles. So I've never had any trouble getting any spices out. You know, if you have the big round ones and you have a small bottle, you sometimes can't fit in there. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on measuring spoons, the things I get excited about. Okay, so we're gonna put in the 1 teaspoon of the Old Bay and 2 cups of just plain tap water. Just add those in. And we're gonna put our pressure lid on. Make sure it's to the seal because we do wanna go under pressure. We're gonna turn the Ninja Foodi on, select pressure, high pressure is fine, and we just need to go for 5 minutes. And hit start. Now this won't take any time to come up to pressure. I mean, maybe, 3 to 5 minutes. It's just a thin liquid with very little in the pot. So this will be done in under 10 minutes, I'm sure of it. And we will then do an immediate release. I'll strain the shells and we'll get moving on to the next step. The pot came up to pressure fairly quickly and then we pressure cooked for 5 minutes and I did an immediate release and that took just about a minute. Now I'm gonna open up the pot, do that away from you, so that the steam doesn't bombard you in the face there. And our shrimp stock is done. So now we just need to strain out the shells. So I'm just gonna carefully pick this pot up. And then we're gonna pour it out into the strainer. This is a fine sieve strainer, so even some of the Old Bay is getting caught, which is what I like. I just want a pure stock. I don't want that seasoning to remain. Now, if it does, it's not the end of the world or anything, but I just like to get it out, so I use a fine sieve strainer. And I'll link to this below because it is absolutely perfect for so many things. All right, so that is finished. Now I'm just gonna let this cool a little bit and I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of the shrimp shells and wash the pot up, and then we're gonna get moving on to making our scampi. All right, so the pot's cleaned up there. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and turn this off for right now. We're gonna get it on to sear saute in just a second, but I wanted to talk for a few minutes about the rest of the ingredients. So we made our shrimp stock, as you know. Now I started off with 2 cups of water and I now have 1 3/4 cup of water. So there is a 1/4 cup of evaporation during the time that it comes up to pressure, and then of course releasing the remaining pressure. When that steam comes out, that is evaporation. And so I know that, and I know I need 2 cups of liquid. So I'm gonna use 1.5 cups of the stock, and I have a 1/2 cup of wine. Now that is totally optional. If you don't want to use the wine, then start out your shrimp stock with about 2.25 to 2.5 cups of water, or you could just add some water in. It would be fine that way too. Or chicken broth would be really, really good. Any which way you want to do it. You just want to end up with 2 cups of liquid. That is very important because we're going to put the angel hair pasta under pressure, and you know with pasta we need the liquid. All right, so the first thing, I'm just gonna set this over here because we're not gonna need it right away. And I'm gonna bring up my butter and my olive oil. So shrimp scampi is basically olive oil, garlic, butter, shrimp, and some pasta. And of course, we like to add in some lemon zest to brighten it up. That's what I like to do anyway. And also some Parmesan cheese is usual in shrimp scampi. However, I like to do things differently, and I like to add more flavor to things. So I've got some ingredients that you don't normally see in shrimp scampi. First thing I have is roasted garlic. I'm a huge proponent of using roasted garlic in many dishes. In fact, my spaghetti recipe, which I will link to right up there, uses roasted garlic, and I really encourage people to go that extra step because it adds so much flavor. And I roast the garlic right in the Ninja Foodi. So what I do is I cut off the tops of the garlic bulbs. I do 4, 5, 6 at a time because I use a lot of them in cooking. Just drizzle some olive oil on top. I put all the bulbs in a little foil packet, put the rack on the low position, throw the packet in, turn the Ninja Foodi on, bake at 325, and let it go for 35 minutes, and I have perfect roasted garlic, and I absolutely love it. You can refrigerate it. You can actually submerge it in olive oil, and it'll keep for quite some time. I use it so fast, though. I just keep it in the refrigerator in a Ziploc baggie, and it's gone in no time, and I'm making more. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is start to develop the sauce, okay? So we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of butter to the pot. Well, there's a little residual heat there still, but I'm going to go ahead and turn on the pot. We're going to use the sear saute, high is fine, and hit the start button. So I've got the butter in. I'm also going to add in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And I'm not measuring. I'm just maybe 4 twirls around will give you enough. But you can measure if you prefer. All right, to that, we're gonna add in 1 cup of diced onion. This is diced in about a 1/4 inch dice. We're just gonna add those in. Now, along with flavor, I also like color to be in my dishes. So I have finely diced up one of these little sweet peppers. Now, these are not spicy kind. These are just little sweet peppers that I get in a bag at the grocery store. You don't have to use this kind. You can use a red bell pepper, or you could omit it altogether. I just happen to like the way the red looks in the dish because it's just beautiful. I mean, at the end, it's just gorgeous. So we're gonna add those in. Okay. There we go. So we're gonna let those saute for a minute or 2, and we're gonna start getting our garlic ready. So this dish calls for 2 bulbs, 2 or 3 bulbs, it doesn't matter, you can put in as many as you want, but definitely 2 bulbs of roasted garlic, and also a tablespoon of minced garlic. And I like to do that fresh. I don't like to get the prepared kind. So I get garlic in a pretty large bag. So I'm just gonna peel the paper away here and start to pop out some cloves. Usually 4 to 5 cloves will give you a tablespoon, but it depends. Depends on how big they are. So I've got a couple cloves here. Do a couple more. Then I'm gonna use my mincer. Now I don't have to peel these because I have this wonderful garlic press from Pampered Chef that I will link to below because I think this thing is like 25 years old or something and it still works great. In fact, I have a newer one and I don't know, I always grab my old one. All right, let's see if I can get these. Sometimes the little cloves are a little difficult to, those are some big flat ones. Okay, so if you're not familiar with a garlic press, it's just a little press thing. I don't know how to describe it. You put your garlic in. You can do 1 or 2 cloves at a time. You don't have to peel them. You put this down and then you just squeeze. Now it doesn't take a lot of effort, but if you don't have strength in your hands, it would be kind of difficult to do this. So what I would recommend is either getting it already minced up for you, which you can do in the grocery store, or just finely dicing it. I'm gonna give this a little stir so I can hear the olive oil and the butter sizzling in there. It's already looking pretty. It also comes with this little tool here, which I don't use it, but you can use it to scrape off the garlic, and then you can also use this little end to push in, and it pushes up the paper and cleans it out. I don't really use it. I just pull it out with my fingers, but that's an option as well. All right. We're just about there. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up. I like garlic, so I don't mind having extra in there. And you do want to put your garlic in after your onions and your peppers have been sauteing for a minute or so. Garlic burns very easily, and so I don't like to add it right away. I like to add it a few minutes after. All right, that looks like a really good tablespoon of garlic. So I'm going to add that in and stir it around. Perfect. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is just put a little bit of salt, not much, because we're going to have salt from the Old Bay and we're going to have salt from the Parmesan cheese. So we don't need a lot. I'm just going to use about a half of a teaspoon of sea salt. Sprinkle that in. Give it a little swirl around. Now, if any of your peppers or onions or garlic get stuck to the bottom, make sure that you scrape them off, because you don't want that to trigger the water notice. And that can happen, unfortunately. All right, so let's peel these. Now, when they're warm, you can just push them and the little cloves will come out, but these are already cold, so you just gotta peel them apart. And we're just gonna throw them in. I'm gonna do these two. These are pretty big cloves in this one, so I'm gonna use these two smaller ones, just so you get like little bite-sized pieces in your shrimp scampi. Okay, so these have been sauteing for just a few minutes. It smells amazing. And now we're gonna put in our 1.5 cups, so I'm gonna leave just a little bit in the bottom here, of the shrimp stock that we made. You know what? A lot of the flavors in the bottom there, I'm gonna put the whole thing in, and I'm just gonna leave a little bit of the wine out. And now I'm gonna put in that 1/2 cup of wine, but I'm just gonna leave probably just about that much out. Okay, which, yeah, a little bit more in there. Wine can't hurt, right? Okay, great. So the next thing we want to do is zest to lemons. Now again, this is another optional ingredient, but I find that it really brightens up the shrimp scampi. You can add it at the end as well, which I know a lot of people do, but I'm gonna go ahead and zest it in here right now because it's gonna help to flavor the sauce. And when I'm zesting a lime or any citrus, you really just wanna go gently around the skin. You don't wanna go deep or go over the same area again and again, because you're gonna get down into the white part, and the white part is the pith, and the pith is very bitter, and it will affect the flavor of your dish. So be careful about that, and just gently grate off the yellow part of the lemon. Now the lemon's fine to use afterwards, so you know, if you want to squeeze some fresh lemon juice on your scampi, that's wonderful as well, or make a little fresh lemonade or something like that. But they will dry out pretty quickly once the skin is removed by zesting. So you do want to use them up pretty quickly. I love the smell of fresh lemon zest or orange zest or even grapefruit zest. It's just so good. If you don't get it all, it's no big deal. And, you know, not measuring or anything. If you have 1 lemon, use 1 lemon. You know, if you don't have it, don't worry about it. You could add in a tiny bit of lemon juice if you wanted. Okay, so I'm gonna give this a stir, make sure nothing is stuck on the bottom here. And then we're gonna go ahead and turn the Ninja Foodi off. just while we get our noodles on, and then we're gonna put it under pressure. So I have here 8 ounces of angel hair pasta. Now, I think you could double this recipe fairly easily just by doubling all of the ingredients. But, you know, it's only Jeff and I here, and so, and I test these so many times that we have lots of food. So this is gonna make 4 servings, and, you know, that's fine for us. So, all right, so I'm gonna break these angel hair noodles, and I'm gonna put them in the same way that I do with the spaghetti, which is you go across one time with just like a handful, and then you go across the other way. So we are putting them like this in the pot. What that helps to do is keep them separated so that they don't like get together and get all gummy on you. Now we all know angel hair cooks very fast. So when we go under pressure, we're going under pressure for 1 minute and we're going on low pressure. And then we're just gonna do a 1 minute natural release and everything comes out perfect. I will push these noodles down a little bit into the liquid, but if they're not all covered, don't worry about it because, you know, the steam created by that thin liquid that has to be created in order to come under pressure is going to help take care of that as well. So it will definitely cook these noodles. And that's about as far as I can get them down. And that's fine. I'm not even concerned about it at all because definitely the steam will cook them. Okay, so we put our lid back on. Make sure you are in the sealed position. Extremely important when you're cooking pasta, or you will evaporate all your water. Your pasta will become gummy, it won't cook, and it'll burn to the bottom, and you'll get that water notice, which we never want. Okay, so seal it. Turn your Ninja Foodi on, hit the pressure. We're gonna go to low. Now, we don't always cook on low pressure. In fact, it's very seldom that you'll see recipes for low pressure. But low pressure will reduce the amount of heat in the Ninja Foodi. So instead of cooking at like, I don't know, I'm gonna throw out a number. I know I'm not accurate on this. Let's say 250 some degrees that we get to on high pressure. It'll be like 230 something degrees. So it's still hotter than boiling water. So it's still gonna cook faster, but just not quite as fast. And I found that this was perfect. Perfect time, perfect temperature for the angel hair pasta. And we're just gonna go 1 minute, hit start. All right, so we're gonna let this pot come up to pressure, which isn't gonna take any time because we just have some thin liquids in there, so it's not gonna take much time. 1 minute on low pressure, and then 1 minute natural release. So while that is happening, I'm gonna go ahead and cut up my broccoli. Broccoli in shrimp scampi? Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you why. So I have a Facebook group called Simply Cooking with Louise, and every other Tuesday I go live on Facebook in that group and I cook something. Usually my husband brings me home ingredients that I have no idea what they are and I have to cook dinner. Well, this last time I put out polls in all the groups and said, you pick my ingredients. And so they picked shrimp and they picked pasta, they picked broccoli, and then for my cuisine, which I don't find out until the very last day, they picked Italian. So I had to incorporate broccoli into my dish, and I decided to make shrimp scampi and add in broccoli, and I liked it so much that I told my husband we have to do a video on this. It is so delicious. Now, you don't need to add in the broccoli if you don't like. A lot of times I'll add in spinach at the very end, and I like that as well. But for the broccoli, we're not even gonna be cooking the broccoli. And so we need to make sure that we trim it. Now this is already washed and everything. We need to make sure we trim it into very small florets. So what I'm gonna do here just to get started is cut the stalk off. Now this is great if you're gonna make a vegetable stock as well. You can use the broccoli stalk. And then I'm just gonna cut these into about this size because I want it to cook in the same amount of time that it's gonna take to cook the shrimp, which is just using the residual heat from the shrimp scampi that we've got going on in there. So if your broccoli florets are a little bit bigger, you can just take your knife and just sort of cut off. And they're so cute. All right, so we have finished our 1 minute of pressure cooking. So now we're gonna be counting down. So I need to hurry up and get this done. So I'm just kind of going along and just trimming them just so they're about the same size there. Those look good. This is about 6 ounces of broccoli with the stalk on. So I'm thinking we're gonna have about a cup when it's all said and done. This is one of those dishes that you don't want to walk away from. You definitely want to be right here because, you know, you don't want the pot to continue to count up after that 1 minute. You definitely want to stop it so you don't overcook your noodles. So I would already have the broccoli, or ordinarily I'd already have it chopped up. Oh, we're at a minute. Let's release that pressure. Okay, pressure's released. Go ahead and open up the lid. And we're gonna dump in our broccoli. And we're gonna dump in our shrimp. You don't want the lid to be open too long because we want that steam and that heat to stay in there. And then I'm just gonna give it a quick toss. Move it around here so that the shrimp get down into the pasta and will start to cook with just the heat of the pasta. It looks amazing. Now, if you like your pasta a little bit more done, because I like mine al dente, then I would definitely recommend cooking it for 2 minutes. Or 1 minute on high pressure would probably work as well. Okay, that looks good. Now we're just gonna close this lid up here for a minute and we're gonna let it sit for 5 to 7 minutes is probably good. Then we'll add in our cheese and we'll get it on our plate and we'll taste this delicious shrimp scampi. Okay, let's take a peek because it's been probably about 6 minutes or so, and I've done a couple of stirs in here just to make sure the shrimp get moved around. And so now it looks really good. However, I like mine a little bit more saucy. So what I'm gonna do is turn the sear saute on. I'm gonna turn it down to low though, because I don't want it to be too hot. I'm gonna turn that on. That little bit of wine that I left out, I'm gonna go ahead and dump in. Now I do wanna cook this for a few minutes because I want the alcohol to burn off. And at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and add in the Parmesan cheese because that's gonna help melt in into the pasta as well. You can also add this as a garnish, but I like to add it in now so that it gets mixed in with the pasta. And I'm probably gonna put in about 1/2 cup, but use your judgment. There's no rule on how much or how little Parmesan cheese that you can use. All right, that looks good. That might just be 1/4 cup, but it looks good to me. And then the other thing I'm gonna add in is a little bit more butter. So that's 2 tablespoons of butter. Again, just trying to get a little bit more sauce in there. You could also add in some more, you could add in water, you could add in some more wine, you could, whatever. Just make it the way that you like it. And I just like mine a little bit saucier. It looks great though. Looks really good. The shrimp are cooked perfectly, I can tell. It's so pretty. And all the noodles look perfectly cooked. None of them are clumped together. All right, that looks great. Now, if you wanted to add spice, then you could add in a few red pepper flakes, which I usually do. I'm gonna leave them out now. I'm just gonna garnish with a few. And that way each person can put the amount of spice that they want into their shrimp scampi. But if it's just for you and you like spice, go ahead and add in a pinch or 2 of the red pepper flakes. It really adds a nice flavor. All right, so we are ready to taste this. Let's get some out here. It looks so good. Couple shrimp, some of that broccoli. It's just gorgeous. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Now, the first time I made this, it actually had more sauce in it. And so I would probably recommend going with maybe a total of 2.5 cups of the liquid. So I used 2. So I think I'm going to write the recipe up for 2.5. And of course I'll test it again, make sure that that's right. So I'm just going to add in just a few red pepper flakes. And I'm going to add in a little bit more Parmesan cheese on top. I cannot wait to taste this. Okay, that looks good. And let's do a little lemon. Just a tiny bit. All right, perfect. Oh, I can't wait to try this. All right, here we go. Try not to get too big of a bite here. It's a little big. Let me get a piece of that broccoli. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's so good. Man, this is delicious. Now the broccoli is crunchy still. So what you could do to get it cooked a little bit more if you like, is just keep it on the low simmer and just simmer it for a little bit longer. Put in a little more liquid like I talked about earlier. Shrimp is perfect. Absolutely perfect. Oh, I just got a little bit of that spice. Man, that's good. Wow. Fantastic. The garlic really comes through. Oh, let me get a garlic clove. So these garlic cloves, like, don't be afraid to eat them. They are sweet. They are not real, you know, bitter like minced garlic is. That's why we put a combination of both in the dish. And they are just so good and delicious. So definitely don't pick those out. They are so good. All right, well, I think we have another very successful Ninja Foodi dish that takes no time at all. I mean, literally, this is done in 20 minutes. So it's easy for a weeknight meal, and it's fancy enough for a celebration, dinner or something, you know, something special occasion. It's absolutely fantastic. I really recommend you give it a try. And as always, make it your own. Magnificent. Now I'm full.